I'm in the process of buying a dry cleaner to fix that.
In other words, I can't go by my name.
Not
I know Anne's is going, but what about A1?
go to.
I can't wait until you buy one, Josh.
I'm in the process.
Will that be soon? They did.
Gary, are you ready, sir? All right.
Call to order the Claremore Development Authority. Sarah, please call the roll.
Colin. Michael. Calendar. Long.
Present.
Eslick. Colby. Here. McSpadden.
Here.
Irwin. Here.
You just stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, just thank you for today and for us meeting as a body. And God, I just pray that you help us to, as we commit our work to you, that you just establish our thoughts. I thank you for each and every counselor, Lord, and I just pray that we all glorify you with our actions and our words. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody for calling the public?
Yes.
Mr. Gillis?
Mr. Gillis, Adam Haven's not here, so I'm just going to remind those listening at home and for you, there's a 3-minute timer if you'll say your name and address, and as a reminder of state law, if there's an item that you discussed that is not on the agenda, the council can simply nod, acknowledge you were here, and if there's anything that you would like to discuss afterwards, please feel free to find me, but we can't address anything not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
My name is James Gillis from Claremore, Oklahoma. Last time I was here, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. Last time I was reading from an article from studentsforlife.com written by Melissa Martin, January 3rd, 2023, entitled Drag Show Performer Simulates Bloody Abortion at Kid-Friendly Event. And I left off at this spot here. The article continues, Plaza Live allowed children of all ages into the show despite a letter from state authorities explicitly warning that the venue's license would be revoked if minors were permitted. Florida's Voice and the Post-Millennial reported that children did attend the show in Orlando, one of the 4 tour stops in Florida for the national tour of Drag Queen Christmas. Florida's plan to protect kids. The Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation issued a letter to Plaza Live proprietors that promised to take disciplinary action if the venue violated Florida state law by exposing children to sexually explicit performances. And there's an article they quoted entitled DeSantis Administration Warns Orlando Venue About Children at Drag Show Tonight. Pictures on twitter.com from the Florida Standard at the Florida Standard, December 28th, 2022. Read the letter in its entirety. Read the letter in its entirety on Twitter. The letter warned that the DBPR may revoke the venue's business license, stating to avoid action being taken against your license, it is your obligation to ensure that minors are prohibited from attending the drag show. My question, why would a business risk being shut down when all they have to do is prohibit minors from attending adult entertainment shows? It doesn't make sense unless you allege the issue is a covert setup by child predators and pedophiles. Why push the envelope unless there is a bigger goal? Any adult that believes it's okay for a child to witness what the video clip shows is a deranged individual. What can citizens in Florida do? The same that people can do here in Oklahoma. Email Governor Ron DeSantis, which would be our governor in Oklahoma, and the Attorney General, and voice your support. Contact your state representatives, mayors, and city council members. Organize coalitions in Florida, Oklahoma, and obtain.
Thank
Finished.
you, Mr. Gillis.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Any motion to accept the agenda as printed? Motion is second, any discussion?
Michael.
Yes.
Spelman. Cottom. Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby. Yes. McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes. Any items unforeseen? No. We have a motion to accept the consent items as printed. Motion is second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Michael.
Yes.
Spelman. Cottom. Yes. Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby. Yes. McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes. Motion is adjourned, second, call the roll.
Michael.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Cottom. Yes. Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby. Yes. McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin. Yes.
Call to order the Claremore Public Works Authority meeting, note the roll. We have a motion to accept the agenda as printed.
Second.
The motion is second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Irwin. Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Any items unforeseen? None. Under current business, item number one, we have a motion to accept the consent items as printed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Motion to adjourn is second, call the roll.
Michael.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Call to order the Claremore City Council meeting, note the roll. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion is second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Colby.
Yes.
Cottom.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin. Yes.
Any items unforeseen?
None.
Mayor's report and appointments, none for tonight. Awards and presentations.
Miss.
Huh?
She's got a little slideshow.
That ain't working.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
It's gonna take me a minute so you can,
Can you do hand motion or something?
Yeah, I could probably walk through kind of the high-lows of it. So as you all know, Claremore Economic Development is partnered with you all to provide holistic economic development services. And once a quarter, we provide you with updates with a piece of that scope, so not the holistic piece. And so tonight, we're here to share with you an update from the 2024 slides. There's some interesting numbers in there regarding received project interest, particularly pertaining to Claremore's industrial park, versus those responded to, see differences there. And some. Hey, there we go. Thank you. I'll let you go to the next slide there for me. Thank you. So as you can see, I want to kind of walk through these numbers. These numbers look a little bit different than they have in the past. And so projects receiver, any projects we receive from the state of Oklahoma, Tulsa Regional Chamber, direct leads, GRDA, or a number of other sources. And so normally those received versus those submitted on runs closer to 25%. So you can see there's quite a radical shift in difference there compared to normal or previous years, maybe not normal. Every year's a little bit nuanced depending on what's happening in the market. First is contact initiated by the projects, and so you'll see diversely that's pretty high compared to the normal leads that we get. And so ultimately, as you recall, in economic development for an industrial development, we're trying to get in what's called the funnel. So you receive the project, they send us a spreadsheet that's often about 140 different items that we have to submit of utility information, parcel, geotech, zoning, and everything in between, workforce and a mix. And then the goal is to work down the funnel to not be eliminated to receive them. So ultimately the goal is a site visit or the site selector, which is the industry that brings those companies in, or the industry itself coming onto Claremore's sites in order to look at a viability. Typically, by the time you get to that point, you're one of 3 sites. It's very uncommon to have more than 3. And so to have over 50% of those that we submitted on actually coming to town shows you that we've made some shifts internally and doing a little bit different job of how we vet projects and how we identify what fits or not. It's also indicative of some market shifts. And so just today, we received 2 project inquiries in the state of Oklahoma. One of those wanted a gigawatt of power on 15 acres. By comparison, a gigawatt is understood by the name, is 1,000 megawatts. And no, it is not a data center. So I want to clarify that it's traditional manufacturing in the energy sector. Claremore's entire city limits, by comparison, only has about 10% whole capacity, not available, but our entire community, including the existing industry. And so we were remarking this morning, I share that because we remarked that it is more and more common. I remember the first time we got a project that had a B for $1 billion of investment versus millions. That's kind of become our norm. Billions of dollars in investment, gigawatts versus megawatts, because of the infrastructure needed for industrial projects in the region. And so another project I've literally gotten in the last 2 hours since coming in here, diversely, was 20 megawatts on 15 acres, which is arguably a project we would normally look to submit to. It's a company or industry that's aligned with our target goals, workforce, and so on and so forth. However, we lack the electrical infrastructure to even think about submitting on that, right? And so I share that particularly, I think that's an important conversation I think we're having as a community. That project on 15 acres, just for the building, is a $37 million investment with 275 jobs. That is solely looking at the state of Oklahoma, that Claremore cannot compete against other communities because we lack the infrastructure. So I share that because I think it's important for you all and certainly those watching at home to understand the kind of considerations and facts. So straight out the gate, before we can even get to thinking about submitting that information, we've already self-eliminated because we do not have that funding in our community. And so I just want to make sure that we're sharing that with you all, representing, and that way you know that. But certainly very excited to continue moving forward with these. We'll continue on there. Obviously, as you all know, retail growth often pushes behind sales tax. And so from those brands alone, no other brands were considered in that number. That was their 2024 January to October contribution in city sales tax. And so those are all brands that our organization has worked on your behalf to bring to the community. And so we think that that's important to showcase to you all the impact of those. And so again, continuing to grow that. We did, 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, attend this session in Texas that we recruited those brands from to look at bringing others. We have a number of brands that would like to be in the market, but they want to have a 1-acre site on Route 66. Not a whole lot of those, unless you look south of the current Atwoods facility, again, where we do not have the infrastructure to support them. So at this time, they are not able to come into our market based on citizen demand. Go ahead. So AXH Air Coolers, you all hopefully saw this and want to walk through this. So AXH Air Coolers has an expansion. You're probably wondering why I sit before you in Claremore sharing an expansion in a neighboring community. We actually facilitated that expansion. And so AXH Air Coolers celebrating their 20th year here in Claremore. Again, you'll see they started with less than 25 employees, and now it's over 750 people that come to our community every day to work in their facilities, making heat exchangers. which I'm confident all of you have seen at some point on the road.
Right.
And so.
Lodged under a traffic light.
Perhaps. And so that investment came because we worked with, as a community, worked with them in 2003 to 2005 to bring that investment here to Claremore. And so as a part of them receiving the business expansion program funds, which will be funding their Sepulpa site, that Sepulpa site will add an additional 50 jobs here. So the question you're wondering, why Sepulpa and why not more expansion here? So there's some workforce skill sets that exist in that market that do not exist here within a 25-minute average drive time. And so it's frankly a strategic move on their part. They also have workforce that drive from those areas to Claremore. So a lot of streamline their operations. And frankly, additionally, it adds some additional positions here. So certainly a win. We believe, again, in supporting those that are here, and we can go chase new things to come all the time, but if you're not investing in the existing companies that are already here providing quality job opportunities, then that's kind of a spinning wheel. And so we're excited for them. It was certainly a landmark excitement as they're celebrating 20 years. And so look forward to their continued growth and expansion here in Claremore. So separate from that, we talk a lot when we talk about business retention and expansion. We talk a lot about manufacturing, and frankly, that's been a lot of what we've done for decades. And so shifting a little bit post 2020, we are getting more and more demands for the healthcare sector. And what does that look like? And so in the state of Oklahoma, unlike manufacturing, there are not as many support systems that exist for the healthcare industry. And so some of this has been a process for understanding what do our businesses here need and how can we be a value add to them in that process. And so trying to adapt some of those strategies to make sure that we're continuing to grow the healthcare sector here. Go ahead. With that, I'll just conclude and share part of what drove that healthcare shift. As you know, we've been operating a scholarship program in partnership with you, and then certainly our portion with you has ended due to expending the funding, but continue that with Rogers County. We're proud to say over 200 Rogers County citizens have been upskilled in their training. LPN, CNA, phlebotomy are our top 3 programs that we have applicants that have enrolled in, followed by welding, CNC, and CDL. So we know manufacturing and healthcare are both there, but we saw really the tipping point be healthcare. That kind of prompted the question for what further do we need to be working on there. And so with that, again, that is a very small scope of the full portion that we serve, but just wanted to share an update on business retention expansion, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Maggie, have you looked at the cost to increase our infrastructure so we can get some of these other businesses in?
Certainly. So that's obviously an ongoing discussion we have. And so as you'll recall, when Baker Hughes put its only international research and facility in the world in Claremore, Oklahoma, that was because of Claremore's commitment to build in a substation. At the time, that substation cost us $4.2 million. That same substation today, well, as of January, we priced it out last year, but was $26 million. And so for the same.
How much does that megawatts or whatever?
That would be a 20, well, it would have 2 25 megawatt transformers, so 50 total of usage. You would have some surplus on that you would keep for peaks, but.
So counselors, to answer your question, if you'll recall, those of you that were able to attend, look at it. So we have a new substation in our long-term forecast to match our existing, which is about 28 megawatts, and just the procurement of the equipment alone is about $7.5 million. So then you have to do the switching gear. But that's part of our initiative on April 1st too, is just the expansion of those types of infrastructure related items.
So if we don't have the penny sales tax, if it doesn't pass, we won't be able to obtain the new subsidy?
Well, I mean, you just have to figure out what we don't do to get it. Okay. As a reminder, we're very uniquely structured in 3 restricted pennies, and so only one of them is legally can be utilized for infrastructure. And that generates about $5 to $5.5 million a year. And that's water, streets, power, sewer, stormwater. So, hence the utility revenue also subsidizes some of that, but it's just, how do you do it? It's the chicken or the egg. So we need to seriously, the issue is, as you all know, the cost to provide those services has gone up immensely over time, while we have not adjusted anything. While there have been increased revenues from sales tax, they are not commensurate with the increased expenses that come along with the way we, and cities and towns, provide services. And so it's just an antiquated, archaic way to do it, and that's the state of Oklahoma's doing. And so if we're not going to reinvest in ourselves, we simply sit back and wait or watch things fall apart. And that's not, you all know when you hired me 5 years ago, the emphasis was on infrastructure. And so I encourage everybody to look at the things that we talked about last week, look at our long-term capital projects, $387 million in needs. So we've done about $67 million worth of work in just the last 5 years. But that's based on low interest financing, 1.29% on revenue notes, as well as the water project, which was $28 million, and that's OWRB government bonds that they sold, and we got a really good interest rate on that. But outside of that, the sales tax and the revenue generated alone currently just won't support everything that we need. It will just take longer to get there. And every year we don't spend $7.5 million on a substation, it probably costs another $1 million or $2 to build that. The water treatment plant upgrade, 1 year delay with labor, inflation, all of those things went from $19 million to $26 million. We didn't change the scope. And that's market. We by law are required to competitively bid on the open market, and that's what the market dictates. We don't get special deals. We don't get special deals at the gas station. We don't get special deals on anything. So those are the challenges that we face. And we're the same with water and sanitary sewer and transportation across the board.
Maybe outside of power, what are the other issues that would prevent businesses or manufacturing industry from coming here? Workforce, is it housing?
Housing to some degree. So based on the analysis we conducted last year, we're 541 units short of all housing types. That's multifamily, single family, and everything in between. So that's a piece of it. Childcare is a significant barrier. There's a number of pieces of legislation going through. In fact, there's being heard tomorrow. I'll be in Oklahoma City for 3 different bills. One of those is to provide funding for businesses that choose to have childcare on site. As you'll recall, historically, following the Oklahoma City Memorial bombing, there was kind of this shift to pull childcare out of a private sector business, right? There were some things we learned from that. And so out of that came a lot more restrictions and how do you do that and what that looks like. It will be interesting to see what the private sector response to that is. And if there's a willingness or not. We've had some here in Claremore that function that way, and there's been some in the Tulsa region that function that way that have all closed. So is there a reason they closed? Is that viable or not? You know, I think the state's working forward to see that. We have had a child care facility loss, or will have one by the end of this quarter. And so happy to discuss that after the meeting. And so that presents some challenges, right? They also operated hours that fit, you know, most of our manufacturers don't work 8 to 5, you know, they're a 6 to 3 or some of those things. And so particularly a lot of times if you have a traditional family structure where the female is the provider, it makes it really hard to gain females in manufacturing there because they got to take kids to school and some of those things. And so or if the child care facility is not open, then, you know, if I'm not maybe a bold person that's willing to ask the HR team, hey, can we work something out? Can I shift? Which a lot of people don't want to do that or aren't comfortable doing that, causes some challenges. So certainly infrastructure, we have some natural gas challenges historically. We secured a grant to expand that, and so all of the right-of-way acquisitions in process now. We're still about 22 months from that being completed. So that has been a limitation that's been resolved thanks to the grant that we secured there. But certainly electricity is a challenge right now. There's a surplus of water that exists throughout the city. However, if we continue at the growth rate that we're doing, that also becomes a challenge, frankly, probably in the next 5 years. And so today, I can't say that water is a concern to recruit them today, but if a company comes in and says, hey, we want to do phase 1 at X amount of square feet and phase 2 and 3 by 2030, it makes it really challenging to say, yes, Claremore can meet those needs. And you can imagine If you're a company that's looking to drop millions or billions in a community, you expect that your toilets are gonna flush, that your AC units have power, that if you have your heat exchanger company, you need to test with water. You're a Baker Hughes and you test with water, that the water flows and is of quality and all of those things. So it will continue to become a challenge if we don't continue. Certainly there's grants and different things that we're always chasing, as well as certainly city staff is chasing. But those only go so far, and there's limitations there. And so, yes, not only on the industrial side, but certainly on the retail sector as well, it becomes really challenging to remain competitive, particularly when you have other communities that are choosing to invest in those things, and it makes it really challenging.
What about, land and facilities availability?
At this point, from an industrial perspective, there's adequate land. If we continue to be successful, that also becomes a conversation in the next 3 to 5 years. There's commercial property that exists. There's not roadway and utilities to those commercial properties. And so, the other potential challenge is that, many of those are held by the private sector. Not a bad thing, that's what they should do. However, as an example, all of the remaining plaza sites back past Tropical Smoothies are $1 million an acre. Yeah, so balancing certainly
is absurd pricing.
when you know, fan of local control, fan of private property rights. However, if you want a company to come in, a certain company, by the time that they build the building, hire the people, all of that, there comes a number where that pro forma just doesn't fly, right? So those are the sites that have utilities on them that are ready to go. You're not gonna get $1 million an acre, you're just not. And so trying to balance that, certainly we have conversations with property owners all the time. It's not really our role to tell them what they should sell their property for, but trying to help educate about what's reasonable, what's market, what we see people paying, you know, for those type of things. It's all public records, you can find those things, and frankly, your national retailers in particular will lay it out. We're looking for this many acres between this price range and this price range at this square foot, and this is how much utility we need. I mean, it's very black and white. And so until we can meet that, it will be up to local operators, and you should have a balance of both. Let me be clear, I'm not contending we should just have all national chains. I'm not personally a fan of that, nor is that our organization stands. However, your local operators, in order to be successful, also have to have the capital to go after those same properties, right? And so it takes our local property owners in the area to be reasonable and market rates, and we want them to make money. That's their right. It's probably why they acquired the land in the first place as an asset. So we want that with a balance of reasonability.
And it's probably safe to say too, you may have a franchise or what we would call a well-known and not national chain, but they may have 50 stores. They're not competing with somebody that's got 5,000 stores. So even on a larger, some of the things that we all know and that are interested here, you know, they have 50, 60, or 100 stores. They're not in the same ballpark as pick some national chain that everybody knows, and they don't. So when you see some of those parcels moving like they have, it's because, and I'm glad they're here, but it's because there's probably 10,000 tropical smoothies across the U.S. that didn't blink at spending that kind of money on that property owned by a private entity. But you're not gonna put a, you know, locally franchised, McDonald's isn't gonna pay that kind of money, or a Hideaway Pizza or something like that.
Any other questions? I do want to take just a moment of personal privilege. As you all likely saw, unfortunately, Claremore Regional Airport, which we also oversee, did endure a hangar fire this last quarter. And I just want to give a public shout out to Claremore Fire Department, its leadership, and a number of the other fire departments they called in. Those buildings are 3 feet apart, okay? And so for 2 buildings to be that close together, but only having significant damage or loss to one, I think speaks to the department and the work that they do. No one wants to get the call at 4 a.m. on a Monday that, hey, we've got a situation going on that nobody wants to endure. But I just want to say thank you to Claremore Fire Department and their leadership. and mitigating what could have been a much more exponentially challenging situation, particularly given that we do have fuel storage and fuel service on site within about 20 feet of where the incident occurred. And so thank you to them, thank you to their leadership. They did a yeoman's job alongside a number of other fire departments that they led there, and so we appreciate that in their service.
And it was a privately owned hangar by an individual, but it was a large hangar. Thank God the FBO that Claremore Economic Development owns and a few others were not damaged. But also publicly, Tri-District, Verdigris, and Justice Tiowa fire departments were amazing partners in that. So we're very thankful to them. And I sent a handwritten thank you note to each of the 3 chiefs on behalf of the city for their assistance in that.
I do have one other question. With the childcare, how short do you feel like we are?
So it's a little bit hard to measure. So we did a public survey in partnership with Claremore Chamber in 2023. On average, our citizens pay between $925 and $1,200 a month for a single child. At the time, none of our existing facilities had less than 85 people on their waiting list. I caveat that to say some of those are duplicative, right? Some of those they're signing up for multiple just to figure out where I can get in. And so we added through 2023 and 2024 3 new facilities. One of those was in the county side to try to pull out some of, with respect to them, some that were in Claremore, but were not Claremore residents, to send them back to closer to their home, which is better for their family anyway. It opened up and backfilled some spots here. But the most recent we have will be over 100 seats or spots as they call them. And so
On a waiting list, we're available.
as far as the one that is anticipated to close, there will be over 100 children, students, displaced from that closure. So it's a challenge. It's, as it should be, highly regulated, high cost of insurance, incredibly high turnover in the employees, because a lot of times we have students that are attending Rogers. We have students from Northeast Tech doing their child development associate. They're entry-level positions. They're often then going to get a degree to become a full-time staff teacher and things of that sort. So there's some significant challenges to have a profitable operation in that sector. You're having to rotate people, if you're operating 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., you've got to rotate people, you've got shifts, there's shifts, words. And then if they're out running buses to take students to school and all of that. So it's not an easy fix.
Continue to close. The federal DHS guidelines are causing those closures. There's nothing you can do about those mistakes.
Yeah, and so, in the event that there is a child receiving subsidy from the state, that's based on a STAR system in Oklahoma, the payment for that has changed this last year. So we know that contributes as well. Our tribal nations also have some subsidies that occur. So there are some others opening throughout the county that may provide some relief. If, there's one on a commute to Tulsa. If I commute to Tulsa, I may see if I can shift there. They're anticipated to open this year, but it's a significant challenge that, again, no different than commercial. You gotta have the right property, it's gotta be segmented right. I mean, those are very specific build outs from security and safety as they should be. But it's just not a clean, easy, hey, let's do this and fix it. So yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I will contend that they have a much better executive director of Claremore Economic Development than they did prior to. So that being said, real quick, started kicking off this week our first round of budget meetings for the next fiscal year. That's always a late February start date. And so meeting with department directors, laying out expectations, and just kind of started that process just as a heads up. As you know, the filing period opened and closed. Councilor Eslick there will be 2 individuals vying for Councilor Eslick's Ward 3 seat. There is 1 seat being contended in Ward 1 and 1 seat being contended in Ward 2. And congratulations to Counselor Irwin and Counselor Michael for being reelected on acclamation. The election is April the 1st. There you go. Reminder to the council that town hall meetings start a week from this Thursday. The first one is March the 6th at the Community Center on Sioux. There will be a subsequent town hall meeting every Thursday at 6 p.m. First one's at the Community Center on Sioux. The second one's at the Will Rogers Memorial. The third one is at the Claremore Conference Center adjacent to the Holiday Inn. The conference center's open, the hotel is not. And the fourth one at the end of March will be back at the Community Center again on North Sioux. Each one of those will be at 6 p.m. Please come out if you like. Encourage your Facebook world and social media folks that are still on that to please come and ask questions and have conversations so they can get accurate, true, factual happenings, not the I heard this through so-and-so and I will post it online and therefore it is law. Because I'm seeing a lot of it still through secondhand and literally 100% of it is incorrect. So come visit with us. Let's learn about local government together. Last but certainly not least, the First Street BNSF crossings, both of which have been abysmal for years. And we have been fighting with or asking for assistance for years. Came to a head last week during the weather and some of the damage that a car actually got hung up, and thank God was out of there and nothing came along. But this week you'll notice that that crossing is closed. Assistant City Manager Stan Brown and Garrett Ball and ODOT have been hounding, and we had a long conversation today with their roadmaster. They are mobilizing. There is already material there. They've got something tomorrow, but they will be replacing both of those crossings. They said hopefully done by the end of this week. I know how that goes. We'll just say by the end of next week. So there's a little siding there that's the old wood, and then there's those panels that are shifting. So they are First Street. So basically what we called between the two Pixley properties on First Street.
Okay.
So not the Pixley, which they already addressed, thank God, on Will Rogers Boulevard across Will Rogers. So they will be working on that. Tomorrow they're doing some work up at the interchange at the BNSF UP will mobilize back Wednesday. They said hopefully by the end of the week, but again, I would just say for all intent and purposes, we factor on that being closed through next week sometime. But happy that they're coming and we're very appreciative of them, and we told them as much. And that is all I have unless there are any questions of me from the council.
Current business, motion to approve the consent items as written.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman? Michael?
Yes.
Autumn? Yes. Calendar?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Item number 3, discussion and possible action on an amendment agreement with Zelle Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless for land lease on the police department property. Mr. Case.
Good evening, folks. My name is John Case, and I happen to be the business manager at the Claremore Police Department. Late last year, we were approached by American Tower, who works basically with Verizon. They're the rep for Verizon, if you will. And they wanted to do an amendment to the current agreement that is in place as of February of 2014, leasing the land that the cell tower sits on over at the parking lot. Currently, that agreement is for 25 years, and we were only into it about 10 years right now when they came to me, it was all about doing an amendment for an additional 40 years. They do this in terms of 5-year increments. So basically we're looking for an additional 8 terms. And when asked why they were interested in this and doing it with still plenty of years left on the existing, it's to become competitive. I guess most cell towers are in a 65 lease agreement with whomever owns that land across the country, and ours was currently just 25. So what American Tower is hoping to be able to do for Verizon is extend the agreement to 65 years in order to make them competitive. The current agreement is every year is increased by 2% for the lease. So when this first went into term back in 2014, the city was getting $800 a month. And if we were to play this all the way out for the 65 years, the final payment would be $34,094 for a monthly lease. So long way away, but that is the amendment that they're looking to have you folks agree to. And it does come with a one-time $10,000 bonus, if you will, for accepting the amendment. Any questions, any thoughts, any concerns?
Ask for as much as you can get.
Yeah,
They're competing with another company to protect their investment of power. So there's another company in that industry that has been spending a lot of money buying up a lot of spectrum, a lot of real estate. So
Right.
it's worth it for them to lock in their space for another 65 years. So they're going to be willing to pay for it.
Right.
So to be clear, this is asking for consideration approval of the already negotiated, what he just described. The negotiation side is approved.
Right.
A motion to approve in second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Cotton. Yes. Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Item number, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, discussion and possible action on a contract renewal with Daisy Rentals for kayak rental service at Claremore Lake.
John's former military, so he would have stood there, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, Mr. Fury. The item before you is a contract rental, very simple, but for those of you that don't kind of know the history of this, in 2020, we amended chapter 99 of the City Code of Ordinances, which is what allowed us to actually rent kayaks out at Claremore Lake. In 2022 is when we actually proposed the RFP. Through that process and after its completion, we selected Daisy Rentals as the vendor, and should the contract get renewed tonight, it's the third iteration of this agreement between the City of Claremore and Daisy Rentals. So everything's been going real well. Joe Case is definitely happy with what's going on out there, and so we definitely recommend approval.
Is it renewing for the same amount?
And it's just a year by year. Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved in second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin. Yes. Cotton. Yes. Feldman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Item number 5, discussion and vote to approve or reject entering into executive session as printed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved in second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Cotton. Yes. Feldman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Do we need to take these in?
No, don't worry about that.
Mayor, if you would ask Ms. Knight to join us, please.
Ms. Becky, can you join us, please?
Sorry.